University of Georgia, and we are here to talk about the optimal choice for the GLC GPRA merger. To begin, we have the members of GLC, Great Lakes Cooperative. They have been offered $12.5 million by Green Plains Renewable Energy, GPRE, which is equivalent to 101% of the GLC equity. GPRE has also offered shares of stock to GLC members, which is equal to about 7% of the total offer at hand, meaning that GLC members will receive a combination of cash and GPRE stock. And we believe the big question here is, should GLC accept this offer and be bought out by GPRE, and what is in the best interest of GLC members? We believe it's important to go back to the beginning and see how GLC was first formed. So back in 1999, we had two cooperatives, Everly and Superior, both located in Iowa. Roughly, they both have about the same amount of sales. Everly was slightly larger in terms of locations. They operated out of 7 cities versus Superior, who operated out of 2 cities with 2 plants. Everly had slightly larger sales in petroleum and feed than that of Superior. However, both cooperatives had the same total volume of storage for grain, holding about 12.9 million bushels of corn. And then in 2001, Great Lakes Cooperative was formed, consisting of about 2,500 members, and the CEO of Superior was placed as head of the new cooperative. Just to focus on some of the boards, before the GLC merger, Everly's board, they like to focus on building assets that provided convenient storage for agronomy products and grain, and then they also wanted to focus on marketing services as well. Everly was relatively independent from other cooperatives in the area, and they developed expertise on planning for feed markets, planning for petroleum markets, and then grain merchandising. On the flip side, Superior, they focused on the development of relatively large physical assets in their 2 primary locations at low prices. And then for some of their products, they required networking and relationships with other cooperatives in the area. And then their expertise relied on grain, farm input supply, and petroleum products.
All right, so after this merger, we now have GLC. And we want to do an analysis of that market and see where GLC stood for their weaknesses, their opportunities, and things like that. We believe that they have a strong market right now. They are paying their dividends. Things are going well in this market. We do believe that their weaknesses and their threats are manageable. And we believe that they do have opportunities to vertically integrate, whether it's through this merger or through another internal way of developing their own plant. And we do believe that is a positive outlook for the cooperative moving forward.
Just to give a little bit of market background, these 2 graphs show in 2001 when GLC was first formed, and 2008, which is the current time for this scenario when GLC has been offered this by GPRE. This first graph shows total Iowa corn production in millions of bushels. As you can see, in 2001 when GLC was first formed, approximately 8% of the total corn that they produced in Iowa went towards fuel ethanol production. And then by 2008, almost 37% of corn produced in Iowa was devoted to fuel ethanol. And then nationally, which is the second graph, Iowa in 2001 contributed to 22% of millions of barrels of fuel ethanol produced in the U.S. And then by 2008, when nationally millions of barrels of fuel ethanol produced had risen to about 207 million barrels, Iowa contributed to about 27% of that.
The situation is unique in the fact that we have a cooperative and we have a corporation. And the governance structure between those two are very different. So to look at a cooperative and the way they are structured, they are looking to maximize the benefits for their members. They're not a profit maximizing company like a corporation. So they want to gain market share for their members. They want to do economies of scale for their members. The profit margins are going to be smaller than a corporation. Members have a lot of control. One member gets one vote in the way things are handled and move forward. And we believe this is been one of the main reasons of success for this GLC. Now, comparing that to a corporate structure, they are trying to maximize those profits. Whether that's cost minimizing or gaining market share, they're trying to get as much for the return on investment for their shareholders. Their board of directors are selected by the shareholders, and they have the interest to manage the shareholder, the customer, and the management of the company. So there's some pros and cons of GLC members accepting this offer. So we're going to look at some pros here. The one big thing is they're going to get a cash payout, which is something that's going to be enticing for all GLC members. It's going to be establishing a steady purchaser, and they are going to have a vested interest in the company by having some shares of stock, which is something that they can receive that value add of coming back to the farmer, which is always good. Some cons are they're going to lose that power, that one vote, one member, one vote situation. So that's a big deal because if if the corporation wants to take this one direction and the members want to go another way, there's little say for the member. All right, some pros and cons of rejecting that offer. Some pros are GLC, like I said earlier in the market analysis, they have a good situation going. They get to maintain that control. They get to sell contracts to GPRE, and we've seen that when a petroleum plant moves into an area, that they can receive higher than market prices for that corn, which is something that's attractive for GLC. The cons are they're going to remain very asset heavy. They're not going to get this liquidity buyout, and they can't really shop those shares around that easily. Some risk of entering into this market with GPRE is that they're really focusing on that ethanol market and what it could do. So some excitement with that is that there are some potential for great rewards, but with that comes some risk. And then, as you sell to this corporation, what's to say that they're not sold or bought out by another larger company and potentially taken another direction again?
Now for this case, we've decided to apply the NIE framework, the new institutional economics framework. And here, the governance structure choice is the dependent variable. So as an example, cooperatives are the best option for when farmers and other organizations incur the lowest possible transaction costs. And when we think about transaction costs, we're thinking about not only the actual transaction, but things like search costs, incomplete or asymmetric information, decision costs, etc. And we've included some independent variables to consider for this offer at hand. We have uncertainty accompanying the transaction, asset specificity, which refers to transaction-specific investment required to consummate this transaction, and then frequency, which is the number of interactions that accompany exchanges. In regards to accepting the offer, we believe that uncertainty will increase just because accepting the offer reduces the diversity that the cooperatives offer. GPRE is a huge investment into the ethanol market as well. However, asset specificity will decrease just because the transaction between the farmer and GPRE becomes more streamlined and more consistent. And then frequency will also decrease because the buyer and the seller will become established and will reduce the need for future interactions regarding these exchanges. If GLC chooses to reject this offer, we believe that uncertainty will decrease just because GLC will continue to offer wide services to its members and will have new clients to sell contracts to within GPRE. However, we think that asset specificity has the potential to increase just because as they make contract agreements between one another and translate those two members, these contracts will be relatively short term and will likely be different each time. And then we think that frequency will also have the potential to increase just because as they work on these contracts, the interactions have increased.
Let's go back to the accepting the offer. Yeah, so it's important to notice here that we do believe, while we do believe that uncertainty is going to go up, that's because of the risk of the ethanol market. However, we think there's a high potential of reward there, and we also believe that these two decreases in the transaction costs outweigh this risk. So through this process, we want to make sure that we evaluated the negotiating power between the GLC and GPRE because that is a very important situation that we're going to have to address in our action plan. For the sake of time, we're going to just go from our main points from this study that we did. And we believe that GLC does have some negotiating power here. We believe that they're going to be a profitable asset for GPRE. GLC is giving up control, so we think there should be a enticing offer for them to do that. And we also believe that cooperatives in general are undervalued compared to corporations, and we think that they should be compensated for those differences. So to that point of valuing a cooperative, they are different than corporations. As I said earlier, they are not profit maximizing, they are member benefit maximizing. So when you do an accounting analysis, you're looking at total assets, you're looking at cash flows, and those things aren't considering everything a cooperative does. So we wanted to look at the principle of substitution, the principle of future benefit. So what would it take GPRE to find another GLC or build their own GLC type network? that's going to be super expensive and something that they need to take into consideration. So one way we've reevaluated the value of this GLC cooperative is to do an NPV of the profit margin since 2001, which was stated in the case. So doing that, we just make an assumption that's a 2% profit margin for a cooperative compared to a 10% for a corporation. We believe GLC should be valued closer to $17 million.
Ultimately, we believe maximum benefit occurs by accepting this offer, but also maintaining benefits and services offered by the cooperative. Like Rance mentioned just a minute ago, the cooperative valuation is undervalued when assets and cash flows are used to determine value. So we need to negotiate a higher valuation, and then we also need to negotiate the benefits and services offered by the GLC are kept for the farmers. In conclusion, we want to revalue GLC as a corporation instead of a cooperative. And then we've established these priorities that we want to keep in mind. We were thinking you should establish bylaws to protect member incentives and benefits. That way you can continue to provide services to other markets such as feed, grain. And then we also believe that we should elect members to serve on the new board of directors, requiring that a percentage of new board members be current GLC members, blended together with GPRE associates. Thank you.